Welcome back to HOA Checkmate. I thought it would be a warning. It was a campaign. I was halfway through salting my driveway when Shirley White marched across the street with a bag of ice melt in one hand and her phone in the other. You are going to shovel while the tow driver watches, or the tow happens. She pointed at my car parked at the curb, then at the snowbank behind it. I stared at her, coffee cup steaming in my gloved hand, trying to process what she just said. The storm had dumped 8 inches overnight, and I had been out here since 6 in the morning. My driveway was clear. My sidewalk was clear. My car was parked legally on the street because the driveway had a sheet of ice I did not want to risk until the sun hit it. Shirley stepped closer, her pink belted wool coat spotless despite the sleet tapping on her hood. She held up the bag of ice melt like it was evidence. This is not HOA approved. You cannot use whatever discount brand you want. I am ordering the correct product and billing you for it. I looked down at the bag I had been using. It was plain rock salt from the hardware store, the same stuff everyone on the block used. I glanced around. 2 neighbors were already watching from their driveways, salt buckets in hand, whispering to each other. I work as a high school assistant coach, which means my schedule is unpredictable and my patience for nonsense is low. I had a team meeting in 2 hours, and I could not afford to be late. I am on probation at the new job, and missing work for HOA hearings was not an option. Shirley knew that. She smiled, the kind of smile that said she had already won. The board will back me because they are afraid of me. She said it like a fact, not a threat. I felt my jaw tighten. What violation are you even citing? I asked. My car is not blocking anything. The plow came through hours ago. Shirley pulled out her phone and swiped through photos. She turned the screen toward me, but I could not make out the details. Your car is in the plow zone. You parked to avoid ice, but that is not my problem. The contract says residents must keep vehicles off the street during active snow events. I frowned. The storm ended at 4 in the morning. The plow already cleared the street. She shrugged. I do not care what the weather did. I care what the rule says. That phrase again. She had said it 3 times in the last month, always when she wanted to ignore reality. I pulled out my phone and opened the Four Seasons HOA portal. The rules section loaded slowly, but I found the winter parking policy. It said vehicles must be moved within 12 hours of the snow ending, not during. I showed her the screen. She did not even look. That is the old version. The board updated it 2 weeks ago. I scrolled through my emails. There was no update notice. Shirley smirked. Check your spam folder. The notification went out. If you missed it, that is on you. A tow truck turned the corner and rolled down the street. My stomach dropped. Shirley waved at the driver like she was flagging down a cab. I did not call a tow, I said. She tilted her head. I did. As neighborhood watch liaison for the Four Seasons HOA here in Calgary, I have the authority to enforce parking violations. The driver stopped next to my car and climbed out, clipboard in hand. He looked at me, then at Shirley, then back at me. You the owner? He asked. I nodded. He sighed. Lady says you are blocking the plow zone. I shook my head. The plow already came through. Look at the street. It is clear. The driver looked at the plowed street, then at Shirley. She stepped forward. The violation is documented. I have photos from this morning showing his vehicle in the restricted zone. She pulled up her phone again and showed him something. He squinted at the screen, then looked at me. Got any proof it is clear? I opened my camera roll and scrolled to the photos I took at 6:15. The street was plowed. The snowbank was behind my car, not blocking anything. I handed him my phone. He studied the photos, then checked the timestamp. These are from this morning? I nodded. He handed the phone back. Lady, I am not hooking this car. The street is clear, and the timestamps do not match your story. Shirley turned red. Excuse me? The driver shrugged. If the plow already came through and the car is not blocking anything, I am not towing it. Call the city if you want, but I am not getting involved in an HOA fight. He climbed back into the truck and pulled away. Shirley watched him go, her mouth a thin line. Then she turned to me. Fine. I will bill you for the tow call fee, and I am still ordering the correct ice melt. You have 24 hours to pay, or I am filing a lien. I stared at her. You cannot file a lien over ice melt, she smiled. Watch me. She turned and walked back across the street, the bag of ice melt swinging at her side. I stood there in the sleet, coffee cup empty, wondering how a snow day turned into a legal threat. The two neighbors who had been watching came over. One of them, a guy named Mark, shook his head. She tried the same thing on me last week. Claimed my snowblower was too loud during quiet hours. I checked the CC&Rs. There is no quiet hours rule for snow removal. The other neighbor, Linda, nodded. She is making this up as she goes. Someone needs to stop her. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out and checked the screen. An email from the Four Seasons HOA Management Company. Subject line, violation notice. I opened it and felt my blood pressure spike. The notice claimed I had failed to clear my sidewalk within 6 hours of the storm ending, parked illegally during an active snow event, and used unauthorized de-icing products. Each violation carried a $200 fine. Total, $600. Due in 7 days, or the amount would be added to my account with a 10% late fee. I scrolled down. The notice included photos. One showed my car at the curb with a timestamp of 7:30 this morning. Another showed my driveway with a small patch of ice near the garage. A third showed the bag of rock salt I had been using. I stared at the screen. The photos were real, but the context was missing. My car was parked legally. The ice patch was in my driveway, not the sidewalk. The rock salt was the same brand half the neighborhood used. I opened the CC&Rs document I had saved and searched for the de-icing products section. There was no mention of approved brands. I took a screenshot of the relevant section and replied to the email. I disputed all 3 violations and attached my proof. Within 5 minutes, I got an automated response. Your dispute has been received. Please allow 5 to 7 business days for review. 5 to 7 business days. The payment was due in 7. If I did not pay and the dispute was not resolved in time, the late fee would kick in automatically. I felt the trap closing. I called the management company. The line rang 4 times before someone picked up. Four Seasons HOA. This is Dana. I explained the situation. She listened, then sighed. I see the notice in the system. The photos were submitted by your neighborhood watch liaison. If you want to dispute it, you need to submit a formal appeal with supporting documentation. I already sent an email, I said. She paused. That goes to the dispute queue. If you want it expedited, you need to request a hearing. How long does that take? I asked. She hesitated. Hearings are scheduled once a month. The next one is in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. The payment was due in 7 days. What happens if I do not pay before the hearing? I asked. Dana cleared her throat. A 10% late fee is added automatically. If the dispute is resolved in your favor, the fees are refunded. If not, the amount is added to your account and can result in a lien if unpaid for 60 days. I rubbed my forehead. So I either pay now and hope for a refund, or I wait and risk a late fee. Exactly, she said. I hung up and stared at the street. Shirley was standing in her driveway, watching me. She waved. I spent the rest of the morning digging through the CC&Rs, looking for any mention of approved de-icing products or parking restrictions during snow events. I found the parking rule Shirley had cited, but it said vehicles must be moved within 12 hours of snow cessation, not during. The storm ended at 4 in the morning. I moved my car at 6:15. I was within the window. I took screenshots and saved them to a folder on my phone. Then I checked the de-icing section. There was no mention of approved brands. The only requirement was that products must be used in a manner that does not damage HOA property or create a hazard. I had photos proving my sidewalk was clear and my driveway was private property. I drafted a detailed response to the management company. I attached the CC&Rs screenshots, my time-stamped photos, and a written explanation of each violation. I sent it and waited. No response. I checked my email every hour. Nothing. By the end of the day, I had a new problem. Another email from the HOA. Subject line: Amenities Access Notice. I opened it. Due to outstanding violations, your access to community amenities has been suspended pending resolution. Effective immediately. I stared at the screen. The Four Seasons HOA had a fitness center, a meeting room, and a community garage with snow removal equipment available for resident use. I did not use the fitness center, but I had reserved the garage snowblower for next weekend when another storm was forecasted. Now I could not access it. I called the management company again. Dana answered. I just got an amenities lockout notice, I said. Is that automatic? She pulled up my account. Yes. Any account with outstanding violations over $500 triggers an automatic lockout. But I disputed the violations, I said. She hesitated. The lockout stays in place until the dispute is resolved or the balance is paid. I hung up and checked the HOA portal. My account showed a balance of $600 with a note, payment due in 6 days. I clicked on the Amenities tab. All options were grayed out. I tried to log into the garage reservation system. Access denied. I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes. This was escalating faster than I could keep up. That night, I got a text from Mark, the neighbor who had warned me about Shirley. Check the group chat. I opened the neighborhood group chat and scrolled through the messages. Shirley had posted a long message about snow removal compliance. She included photos of several driveways, including mine, with red circles drawn around alleged violations. No names, but the houses were easy to identify. She ended the message with a reminder that failure to comply with HOA rules could result in fines, liens, and legal action. The board will back me because they are afraid of me. I remembered her saying that this morning. She was not wrong. I scrolled through the replies. A few people thanked her for keeping the neighborhood safe. Others stayed silent. One person, a guy named Tom, asked if the photos were taken with permission. Shirley replied immediately. As neighborhood watch liaison, I have the authority to document violations on HOA property. Driveways and sidewalks are common areas. Tom did not respond. I took a screenshot of the exchange and saved it. Then I checked the CC&Rs again. Driveways were not common areas. They were private property. Sidewalks were the homeowner's responsibility to maintain, but they were not HOA property. Shirley was wrong, and she was doing it publicly. The next morning, I woke up to another email. This one was different. Subject line: Corrected violation notice. I opened it, expecting good news. Instead, I found a revised notice with new photos and new dates. The violations were the same, but the timestamps had changed. The parking photo now showed a timestamp of 5:45 in the morning, before the plow came through. The sidewalk photo showed a timestamp of 8:30, 2 hours after I had cleared it. The ice melt photo was the same. I stared at the screen, my chest tightening. The photos were real, but the timestamps were wrong. Someone had altered them. I opened my camera roll and compared my photos to the ones in the notice. My parking photo was timestamped 6:15. The revised notice showed 5:45. My sidewalk photo was timestamped 6:45. The revised notice showed 8:30. I took screenshots of both sets and saved them side by side. Then I checked the metadata on my photos. The timestamps were embedded in the file properties. I exported the files and saved them to my laptop. If this went to a hearing, I would need proof the HOA photos were altered. I called Dana at the management company. She answered on the first ring. I just got a corrected violation notice, I said. The timestamps on the photos do not match the original notice. She paused. Let me pull up your account. I waited. After a minute, she came back. I see the revised notice. It was submitted by your neighborhood watch liaison this morning. She said the original photos had incorrect metadata, and she resubmitted with the correct timestamps. I felt my anger rising. The original timestamps were correct. The revised ones are wrong. I have my own photos with embedded metadata proving it. Dana hesitated. If you have proof, you need to submit it with your dispute. I already submitted my dispute, I said. She sighed. You will need to submit a new dispute referencing the revised notice. I will flag your account for expedited review, but I cannot guarantee a timeline. I hung up and stared at the laptop screen. Shirley was not just enforcing rules. She was fabricating evidence. I spent the afternoon building a case. I printed out the original violation notice and the revised notice. I printed my time-stamped photos and the metadata reports. I printed the CC and Rs sections Shirley had cited and highlighted the parts that contradicted her claims. I put everything in a tabbed binder and tucked it under my arm. Then I called the one person I knew who might be able to help. Her name was Rachel, a city clerk who handled public records requests. I had met her last year when I needed property documents for a separate issue. She answered on the second ring. Rachel, it is me. I need your help with an HOA situation. She laughed. Let me guess. Four Seasons? I groaned. How did you know? She chuckled. Shirley White has been filing complaints with the city for 2 years. Half of them get dismissed because she misquotes the bylaws. What do you need? I explained the situation. She listened, then said, if the HOA is altering timestamps on evidence, you need to document everything. Get the original files from the management company and compare the metadata. If they do not match, that is fraud. Can I request those files? I asked. She paused. The HOA has to provide them if you request them in writing. City code requires HOAs to maintain accurate records. If they refuse, you can file a complaint with the city. I thanked her and hung up. Then I drafted an email to the management company requesting the original unaltered photo files from both violation notices. I cited the city code Rachel mentioned and sent it. Within an hour, I got a reply. Your request has been forwarded to the board for review. Please allow 3 to 5 business days for a response. 3 to 5 business days. The payment was due in 5 days. That night, I checked the HOA portal again. My account balance had changed. It now showed $800. I clicked on the details. A new line item had been added. Administrative processing fee, $200. I scrolled through the notes. The fee was for the expedited dispute review I had requested. I had not requested an expedited review. Dana at the management company had offered to flag my account, but I had not agreed to pay for it. I called her. She did not answer. I left a voicemail and sent an email. The next morning, I got a response from Dana. The administrative fee is automatic for any dispute flagged for expedited review. If you do not want the fee, you can request to have your dispute moved back to the standard queue. I replied immediately. I did not request expedited review. You offered to flag my account. She did not respond. I checked the group chat. Shirley had posted again. This time, she included a list of homes with outstanding violations. My address was at the top. She did not name me, but everyone knew. The post included a reminder that unpaid violations could result in liens and legal action. She ended with her favorite line. I do not care what the weather did, I care what the rule says. I took a screenshot and added it to my binder. The payment deadline was 3 days away. I had not heard back from the management company about my photo file request. My dispute was still pending. My amenities access was still locked. I checked my work schedule. I had a team meeting in 2 days and a game the day after. I could not afford to miss either. If this went to a hearing and I had to take time off, I risked my probation. I felt the pressure building. That afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered. A man identified himself as a contractor hired by the Four Seasons HOA to handle snow removal for homes with outstanding violations. He said he was scheduled to clear my driveway and sidewalk the next morning and the cost would be added to my account. I told him my driveway and sidewalk were already clear. He said he had photos showing otherwise. I asked who sent the photos. He said Shirley White. I told him not to come. He said if I refused service, the refusal fee would be added to my account. I hung up. I called Dana at the management company. She answered. A contractor just called me about snow removal, I said. I did not request it, and I do not need it. She pulled up my account. The service was ordered by your neighborhood watch liaison. If your property is not in compliance, the HOA can hire a contractor and bill you for the cost. My property is in compliance, I said. I have photos. She sighed. You need to submit those photos with your dispute. I already did, I said. She paused. Then you will need to wait for the dispute to be resolved. If the contractor shows up and you refuse service, the refusal fee is $200. I hung up and checked the CC&Rs. There was no mention of contractors or refusal fees. Shirley was making it up, and the management company was going along with it. I opened my binder and added a new section, unauthorized charges. Then I checked the calendar. The HOA vendor was scheduled to arrive in 1 hour, according to the contractor's message. I needed witnesses. I texted Mark and Linda. Can you come to my house in an hour? I need witnesses for an HOA situation. Mark replied first. On my way. Linda followed. I will be there. I went outside and started clearing the small patch of ice near my garage, the one Shirley had photographed. By the time Mark and Linda arrived, my driveway was spotless. A white panel van pulled up to the curb. A man in a heavy jacket climbed out and walked toward us. You the homeowner? He asked. I nodded. He looked at my driveway, then at his clipboard. Lady said your property was not clear. I gestured at the driveway. Does this look unclear to you? He frowned. No, it looks fine. He pulled out his phone and made a call. After a minute, he hung up. She is not answering. I am not doing any work here. He walked back to the van and drove away. Mark shook his head. She is trying to rack up charges on your account. Linda nodded. You need to get this to the board. I pulled out my phone and checked the HOA portal. The contractor visit had already been logged. Status: completed. Cost: $300. I stared at the screen. The contractor did not do any work. The charge was fake. I called Dana. She did not answer. I sent an email. Within minutes, I got an automated reply. Your message has been received. Please allow 3 to 5 business days for a response. I replied again. This is urgent. A contractor was billed to my account for work that was not performed. I have witnesses. No response. I checked my account balance. It now showed $1,100. The payment deadline was 2 days away. I opened my binder and added the contractor charge to the unauthorized section. Then I checked the group chat. Shirley had posted again. This time, she included a reminder that residents who refuse HOA services would be subject to additional fees and possible legal action. She did not mention my address, but the timing was obvious. That night, I got a text from Rachel, the city clerk. Call me when you can. I called her immediately. She answered on the first ring. I looked into your HOA situation. Shirley White has been filing complaints with the city for 2 years, but most of them get dismissed because she misquotes the code. However, I found something interesting. The snow removal policy she is citing was never officially approved by the board. What do you mean? I asked. She explained. The policy was drafted 2 years ago, but the board never voted on it. The signature page in the archive board packet is blank. Shirley has been enforcing a policy that does not exist. I felt my chest tighten. Can I get a copy of that board packet? Rachel hesitated. It is public record. I can request it for you, but it will take a few days. I do not have a few days, I said. The payment deadline is in 2 days. She paused. I can expedite it, but you will need to pick it up in person tomorrow morning. I will be there, I said. The next morning, I drove to City Hall and met Rachel at the records desk. She handed me a thick folder. This is the board packet from the meeting where the snow policy was supposed to be approved. Page 47 is the signature page. I flipped to page 47. The page had spaces for board member signatures and a date. All of them were blank. I looked up at Rachel. This means the policy was never approved? She nodded. If the board never voted on it, it is not enforceable. You need to bring this to the HOA board meeting. When is the next meeting? I asked. She checked her phone. Tonight at 7. I thanked her and drove home. I spent the afternoon updating my binder. I added the blank signature page, my timestamp photos, the metadata reports, and the list of unauthorized charges. I kept my phone in my pocket because I was saving one clip for the finale. The documented log of repeated gate access failures tied to Shirley's admin account. I had noticed the pattern weeks ago. Every time Shirley filed a violation, the community garage access system logged a failed entry from her account within an hour. She was trying to access the garage to gather evidence, but her credentials were not working. I had screenshots of the access logs, and they matched every violation notice I had received. It was proof she was stalking residents and fabricating charges. The HOA board meeting was held in the community center. I arrived early and found a seat in the back. Shirley was already there, sitting at the front table with the other board members. She saw me and smiled. The meeting started with routine business. Budget updates, landscaping contracts, holiday decorations. Then the board president, a man named Gerald, opened the floor for resident comments. I raised my hand. He nodded at me. I stood and walked to the front. I had my binder under my arm. I started by summarizing the violations I had received. Then I showed the board the original and revised notices with the mismatched timestamps. I showed them my photos with embedded metadata. I showed them the CC&R sections Shirley had misquoted. Then I pulled out the blank signature page. This is the snow removal policy Shirley has been enforcing. It was never approved by the board. The signature page is blank. I passed the page to Gerald. He studied it, then looked at Shirley. Is this true? Shirley stood. Her face was red. That policy was approved. The signature page is just a draft. We voted on it verbally at the meeting. Gerald frowned. We do not do verbal votes. All policy changes require written approval. Shirley crossed her arms. I do not care what the procedural rules say. The policy is in effect, and residents need to comply. I felt the room shift. Gerald looked at the other board members. They looked uncomfortable. One of them, a woman named Diane, cleared her throat. If the policy was never approved, then the violations based on that policy are invalid. Shirley turned to her. Excuse me? Diane did not back down. We cannot enforce a policy that does not exist. Gerald nodded. I agree. All violations related to the snow removal policy are rescinded, effective immediately. Shirley slammed her hand on the table. You cannot do that. The board will back me because they are afraid of me. Gerald shook his head. Not anymore. Shirley turned to me. This is not over. I pulled out my phone and opened the access log screenshots. I held the screen up so the board could see. Every time you filed a violation against me, you tried to access the community garage using your admin credentials. The system logged every failed attempt. You were stalking me and fabricating evidence. The room went silent. Gerald stood. Is that true? Shirley did not answer. Her face went pale. Diane leaned forward. If Shirley has been using her admin access to harass residents, that is a serious breach of her duties. Gerald nodded. I moved to suspend Shirley from all HOA duties pending an investigation. The motion passed unanimously. Shirley grabbed her bag of ice melt and stormed out. The door slammed behind her. Gerald looked at me. I apologize for what you have been through. All charges on your account will be refunded, and your amenities access will be restored immediately. I nodded and sat down. The meeting continued, but I barely heard it. My phone buzzed. An email from the management company. Subject line, account update. I opened it. My balance was 0. All charges refunded. Amenities access restored. The next morning, I woke up to a group chat message. Gerald had posted an announcement. Effective immediately, Shirley White has been removed from her role as Neighborhood Watch Liaison. All violation notices issued under the unapproved snow removal policy have been rescinded. Refunds will be processed within 7 business days. The board is conducting a full review of HOA enforcement procedures to prevent similar issues in the future. The message had dozens of reactions. Relief. Gratitude. A few laughing emojis. If you are enjoying this chaos, hit the like button and subscribe for more HOA nightmare stories. I checked my email. Dana from the management company had sent a follow-up. Your account has been cleared, and your dispute has been marked as resolved in your favor. If you have any further concerns, please contact the board directly. I closed the email and leaned back. It was over. A week later, I was clearing my driveway after another small snowfall when Mark walked over. He had his salt bucket in hand. Did you hear? Shirley moved out. I looked up. What? He nodded. She listed her house 2 days ago. Already has an offer. I shook my head. That was fast. Mark shrugged. People were talking. She could not handle it. Linda came over and joined us. Good riddance. She made this neighborhood miserable. I agreed. That afternoon, I got another email from the management company. Subject line: Policy update. I opened it. The board has approved a new snow removal policy with clear guidelines and timelines. All enforcement actions will be documented and reviewed by the full board before fines are issued. Residents will have 30 days to dispute any violation before charges are applied. I read through the policy. It was fair, reasonable, and transparent. A policy clarification that destroys Karen's favorite tactic. The group chat lit up again. Gerald had posted another announcement. The board is implementing a new policy review process to ensure all enforcement actions are consistent with the CC&Rs and approved procedures. Any board member found to be fabricating evidence or abusing their authority will be removed immediately. The message ended with an apology to all residents who had been affected by Shirley's actions. The responses were overwhelmingly positive. A few days later, I was at the gym in the community center when Diane approached me. She had been one of the board members at the meeting. I wanted to thank you for bringing this to our attention. We had no idea Shirley was operating outside the rules. I nodded. It needed to be addressed. She agreed. We are conducting a full audit of all violations issued in the past year. If we find any other fabricated charges, we will refund them immediately. I appreciated that. That weekend, I ran into Tom from the group chat at the hardware store. He was buying ice melt. He saw me and laughed. I heard what happened at the meeting. That was incredible. I shrugged. Someone had to stand up to her. He nodded. A lot of people wanted to, but nobody had the proof. You did the whole neighborhood a favor. I thanked him and headed to the checkout. The refund hit my account a week later, $1,100. I used it to buy a new snowblower. The old one had been acting up, and I wanted to be ready for the next storm. When it arrived, I tested it in the driveway. Mark and Linda came over to watch. That thing is a beast, Mark said. I grinned. Worth every penny. The neighborhood felt different after Shirley left. People were friendlier. The group chat was less tense. Gerald posted regular updates about board activities, and residents actually responded with questions and suggestions. It felt like a community again. One afternoon, I was shoveling the small patch of ice near my garage when a car pulled up. A woman stepped out. She introduced herself as the new neighborhood watch liaison. Her name was Karen, but she laughed when she said it. I know. I promise I am not that kind of Karen. She explained that the board had appointed her to replace Shirley. She wanted to introduce herself to all the residents and make sure everyone felt heard. I appreciated the gesture. Rachel called me a few days later. She had heard about the board meeting. I wanted to congratulate you. You did what a lot of people would not have the courage to do. I thanked her. I could not have done it without your help. She laughed. Anytime. If you ever have another HOA issue, you know who to call. The winter dragged on, but the HOA drama was over. I kept my binder just in case, but I did not need it. The new policy was working. Enforcement was fair and transparent. Nobody was getting hit with surprise charges or fabricated violations. The neighborhood felt stable. One evening, I was sitting at my kitchen table when I got a text from Mark. Check the group chat. I opened it and saw a post from Gerald. The board has completed its audit of all violations issued under Shirley White's tenure. We found multiple instances of fabricated evidence, altered timestamps, and unauthorized charges. All affected residents have been refunded. We are also implementing a new appeals process to ensure this never happens again. The post ended with another apology and a commitment to transparency. The replies were overwhelmingly positive. People shared their own stories of dealing with Shirley. One resident said she had been charged $300 for a sidewalk that was already clear. Another said Shirley had threatened to tow his car for parking in his own driveway. The common thread was relief. Relief that it was over. Relief that someone had finally stood up to her. A month later, I was at a team meeting when my phone buzzed. An email from the HOA. Subject line: Annual meeting notice. I opened it. The annual meeting was scheduled for next month. All residents were invited to attend and vote on new board members. I marked it on my calendar. I planned to be there. The night before the meeting, I reviewed my binder one last time. I did not think I would need it, but I wanted to be prepared. The evidence was all there. The blank signature page, the altered timestamps, the fabricated charges, the access logs. It was a complete record of everything Shirley had done. I closed the binder and set it aside. The annual meeting was packed. Nearly every resident showed up. Gerald opened the meeting with a summary of the year. He acknowledged the issues with Shirley and outlined the steps the board had taken to address them. Then he opened the floor for nominations. Several residents nominated new candidates. The voting was quick and decisive. The board was reshuffled, with Diane elected as the new president. Gerald stepped down, but stayed on as a regular member. After the meeting, I stayed to talk with Diane. She thanked me again for bringing the issues to light. We are committed to making sure this never happens again. I believed her. The new board felt different, more accountable, more transparent, more like a real community. That night, I drove home through the quiet streets. Snow was falling again, light and steady. I parked in my driveway and sat for a moment, watching the flakes drift past the streetlights. The neighborhood felt calm, safe, normal. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. The next morning, I woke up to another email. Subject line: HOA correction. I opened it. The board has issued a formal correction regarding the enforcement actions taken by Shirley White. All violations based on the unapproved snow removal policy have been officially rescinded. The HOA sends a correction email retracting the smear. Any damage to your standing in the community has been corrected. We apologize for the inconvenience and the distress this has caused. I closed the email and smiled. Karen's credibility collapses in front of witnesses. That was the moment I knew it was really over. The moment at the board meeting when she slammed her hand on the table and yelled, and everyone just stared at her like she had lost her mind. The moment Gerald shut her down and the board voted to suspend her. The moment she grabbed her bag of ice melt and stormed out, and nobody followed her. The funny karma beat came later. Karen insists on a deadline, and the timestamp proves she lied. The revised violation notice she submitted with the altered timestamps was her downfall. She insisted the photos were accurate, but the metadata proved she had changed them. She lied about the timing, and the proof was right there in the file properties. When I showed the board the comparison, her entire case collapsed. She tried to enforce a deadline that did not exist, and the timestamps she fabricated destroyed her credibility. A policy clarification that destroys Karen's favorite tactic. The new snow removal policy was clear, fair, and transparent. It eliminated the vague language Shirley had used to justify her enforcement spree. No more surprise charges. No more fabricated violations. No more threats based on policies that did not exist. The board made it impossible for anyone to abuse the system the way she had. I spent the rest of the winter enjoying the peace. No more surprise emails. No more towing threats. No more fabricated charges. Just normal HOA business. Landscaping updates. budget reports, community events. It felt like a different place. One afternoon, I was clearing my driveway when Linda walked over. She had her salt bucket in hand. I heard Shirley sold her house. Closed last week. I nodded. Good. She smiled. The new neighbors seemed nice. They introduced themselves yesterday. I met them too. A young couple with a dog. Friendly. Normal. The kind of neighbors you want. The group chat stayed active, but the tone was different. People shared tips for winter maintenance. Someone posted a reminder about the next snowstorm. Another person asked for recommendations for a good snowblower. It was mundane, but in a good way. No drama. No threats. Just neighbors helping neighbors. That weekend, I ran into Mark at the community center. He was using the garage snowblower. I heard you got a new one, he said. I nodded, worth every penny. He laughed. I might need to get one too. This old HOA one is on its last legs. We talked for a while about snow removal strategies, and then he headed home. It was a normal conversation, the kind you have with a neighbor. No HOA drama, no hidden agendas, just two people talking about winter. The spring thaw came early. The snow melted, the ice disappeared, and the neighborhood started to come alive again. People were out walking their dogs, kids were riding bikes, and the community felt vibrant. The Four Seasons HOA had survived the winter, and it felt stronger for it. One evening, I was sitting on my porch when Gerald walked by. He stopped and waved. How are things? He asked. Good, I said. Really good. He smiled. I am glad. We made a lot of changes, but I think it was worth it. I agreed. The neighborhood feels different. Better. He nodded. That was the goal. We talked for a few more minutes, and then he continued his walk. I sat there for a while, watching the sunset. The neighborhood was quiet, peaceful, and calm. It felt like home. Stay safe, and I will catch you in the next one.